Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. My bike and I are ready for a big ride today. 5.5 hours, and I'm going to start early to get it done. It's going to be a cracking day. Charlie's new shoes came. They're nice, aren't they? Shimano RC3. She's gone for the speed plate pumps. And, I had this sent to me by a friend over at Cycle Pal. You may or may not have seen this being advertised. It's to get a tyre on when you're very tired or you have tiny arms like myself. I used it to get a new tyre on yesterday, funny enough, because I had a puncture, and I know that those Vittoria Rubinos are really hard to get on for me, so this works a treat. And it'd be really handy when I do really long rides and my hands get tired and sore, which it can do. So, thanks for sending that, Cycle Pal.
Okay, we're out on the road. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another video. I feel like I need to officially say that. Today's session is a VO2 Max session, and I've already completed it. I'm now on a bigger loop that is going to take care of the volume side of things. 5.5 to 6 hours on the plan today, and the traditional 5 by 5 minutes intervals for VO2 Max is what I've completed already, and I've got a little power overlay to treat you to. If you've been following the last couple of weeks, you would have seen the videos where I was doing long time trials and pushing my what we call time to exhaustion, which is roughly what you can hold your FTP at. So my FTP currently is sat, or was sat, at 360, and with a lot of threshold and sweet spot and 50-mile time trials, I managed to extend that time to exhaustion out to 56-57 minutes, which is actually an all-time record for me for an FTP of 360, which is 6 watts per kilo. Now, I'm just after a week of easy riding. I've accumulated around 200-300 TSS in that easy week. We're now focusing on like actual raw FTP and also aerobic capacity. So I'm trying to make myself more efficient. I'm trying to really give that a big old nudge and boost. And Mr. Collie Moore, I hope I'm saying that right, but Mr. Moore is quite a well-known coach and guy. He's done plenty of podcasts, you can search for him, and he was the one that kind of came about that strange FTP test that I did a while back, which was a very long one, measured your time to exhaustion there. Summarize roughly what he said there, but it speaks a lot to what I've learned over the last number of years, and by coaching people and coaching myself, I've learned that when you're doing VO2 Max intervals, VO2 Max, I mean, it hurts, doesn't it? It hurts. Max is max to a certain extent, and you can't go far wrong if you're doing a VO2 Max effort and you're going really hard, and you know, there's no way you're having a conversation, you're breathing heavy, and you know, you're grimacing and you just want it to end like that. Anything over that kind of, they give a range of 3 to 8 minutes for VO2 Max intervals. Power is actually subjective as well, much like heart rate. We give heart rate a lot of grief because, you know, there's such a thing as heart rate lag, and you know, it changes from day to day. But so does your FTP, like so does your power zones. Like, they can change by 5 or 10 watts if you're having a bad day on the bike, or you know, you're really tired. But we don't really speak about that. So when it comes to VO2 Max intervals, and this is something that, you know, I've come across myself through experimenting, but I never knew how to express it until I heard this podcast, and it just talks about breathing and heart rate, and the fact that you can't go wrong if you're just breathing out of every pore in your body. And you know, it doesn't matter if your power is slightly lower, because your heart rate is still high. There's still a response there. There's still adaptations in a sense that you are still pushing yourself. I'm quite a stickler for power. I'm sure a lot of you know that. But when it comes to these efforts, I cannot let my head dictate what I'm doing, because I, much like many other people, can sometimes fall victim to my power's dropping, this is not good, and I'm just gonna stop. I was kind of going as hard as I could go. I mean, the breather was definitely there, heart rate was definitely up in the high 170s, and my max probably today is around about high 180s. So I work around about 90-95% of max heart rate, spending time there, you know, accumulating time where your heart is just going and going, and you're just, that stroke volume is at its absolute peak, you know what I'm saying? So 6 weeks time, it's the Tour de Stations. Do you remember I did it last year? Well, that's what I'm training for now, and that's what I'm actually kind of basing a lot of my training off when it comes to getting ready for this last part of the year, last part of the season. There's a potential to do the Tour de Stations, potential to do the Haute Route event, potential to do an Everesting world record attempt, potential to you know, win the British Hill Climb Championships. And all of these things, they come like in a relatively short space of time. Well, at least the first few. The British Hill Climb Champs comes like a fair bit later on. So in terms of training, I'm just really building and building and building and pushing my aerobic capacity up now, because we're 6 weeks out from the Tour de Stations. Alberto Contador is going to be there. We need to be in the best shape of our lives. So we'll give ourselves a 3-week block. Oh, there's one super important thing I forgot to mention. So how I'm going to structure this VO2 block for 3 weeks. I can handle the workload and potentially then some. So for most people, if they're going to do about 2 to 3 sessions a week, you would more than likely do Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays for your sessions. However, I'm looking more at a very, very intense block, 3 days back to back. What I'm also going to do is, instead of having supreme structure like, you know, 3x8 with, you know, 5 minutes recovery or whatever it is, instead of doing that, I'll do KOM rides. So I'll actually choose climbs that are between that 3 and 8 minute mark, and I'll just go for KOMs, maybe 4 or 5 in one ride. And not only will, you know, the terrain dictate what I do, it'll make it a fun session, and it'll give me something to come back to, say next year if I'm doing a similar session again, to see if I'm stronger on the same route. This block is going to be extremely polarized, in a sense that I'm either going to be going super hard or this pace, which I've averaged 180 watts for the last 2.5 hours. And I know there's a lot of people out there who will say, if you're riding 4 hours at 50% of your FTP, it's wasted time. Well, that's the thing, see, that's the thing. You've got to put trust in it. You've got to put trust in it, and how, if you're doing those VO2 max intervals, for example, and you're doing them as hard as you possibly can, like today, I did an hour and a half of that structure early on, and now I'm doing 4 hours, 4.5 hours maybe, of just 50 to 60% of FTP. I'm just cruising. Okay, so some of the stats from this ride are as follows. Just shy of 6 hours. I wasn't going to do 6 hours. It's meaningless. Like, I don't have a roundabout at the end of my road to keep going around, so I can't do 6 hours. 155 kilometers, average speed of 26.5 k an hour, max speed 71. Power 181 average, normalized of 235, and intensity factor was 0.65. TSS of 250, the 4,000 kgs of work. Power zones, not sure you can see that, but basically zone 1, zone 2 majority, but of course there's so much there that it can't show that I spend time in zone 5 and zone 6. So instead, you can see my best 5-minute power of the ride was 406 watts. Best 1 minute 435. So that was the first minute of like the VO2 max efforts, just trying to get my heart rate up and working. Elevation, quite proud of this. It was 3,000 meters of elevation today. Maximum was 410. Heart rate average 125, max 175. So hopefully I was reaching that for the majority of the time of those VO2 max intervals, because that will be solid work if it is. And yeah, 4 minutes of pause time. So that's it. Day 1 complete. Whew.